Hi, friends. Host Eric here, host Talking with Spanish People. And the title of this live stream is Rachel's Type and Community Perception. But really, the first order of business in this live stream is responding to Nacho Business and slash cat on the roof or whatever the other name is. And sort of figuring out what's going on here in terms of like where Nacho Business has gone tragically wrong in his analysis of things. So he says, Eric and Rachel, I've been watching you for a while, and please, please, please hear me out on this. I'm afraid you're not going to want to, but I'm asking you to consider the possibility Rachel might actually predominantly use FI and TE instead of FE and TI. Okay, that initial paragraph is a big problem right off the bat. When I was first with Rachel and I had mistyped her initially as ENFJ, I spent a lot of time trying to make sure before I corrected myself, that I got her type right. In the aftermath, I've had endless opportunities to revisit the question. Every time I revisit it, the answer is just more definitively clear. She's clearly an FE tool user. If you think that it's possible she's FITE, you do not have a remotely correct understanding of FITE or FETI. Because if you've been watching Rachel for a while, through the right frame of reference, what you've seen is a person who has a remarkable unconsciousness about her own subjectivities all the time, both SI and FI. She would seem, in some ways, to be even equivalently unconscious to FI as me. But it's really, she's not equivalently unconscious, it's just she kind of values it more. So, now, note this here, not your business. When you say, please just consider it, please, I'm only saying this out of concern for both of you. You don't need to have a good reason to get me to consider something objectively. I don't need to believe you're well motivated to consider what you're saying objectively. Hi, Mr. Bobby. Let me go open this up. Let's live stream up so you can see the niggities. So, to the extent that I'm not agreeing with your positive presentation or whatever you want to call it, it's not because I'm unwilling to hear you out. It's not because I think you're not saying it out of concern for me. I don't know if you are now, but I don't. Right? It doesn't make any difference. You can be saying it out of spite if it's the truth and accurate. I will embrace the learning of what you're saying. It doesn't matter why you're saying it. So you have TE second, but for the longest time, I believed I had TI first, and you couldn't have convinced me otherwise. Well, that's because you have TE second. You're inherently engaged in, as your tool function, a subjectivist approach to logic. That is to say, each thing has its own unique logic. You can figure out that logic, but it doesn't generalize out from it. So the fact that you were wrong about your own type for a very long time, is not something you should project onto Rachel or me. We're not that type. We're not subject to that kind of difficulty with objective self analysis. We're subject to a difficulty with subjective awareness. Just saying, for whatever it's worth, I see FI and TE in Rachel, not FE. Well, then you're evaluating people's behaviors and the linkage between those and cognitive functions wildly wrong. If you've been watching me for a while, you should have been listening to what I've been saying, and it would have informed you about the nature of these things such that you wouldn't be so wildly wrong about them. But then what you say here is that your own mistyping of self in many ways led to your own psychotic break because you could see everyone else's functions, but my own were blind to me at the time. You clearly can't see everyone else's functions if you think Rachel's FITE, which is just unsupportable with the data. And your psychotic break that you had is very unlikely to have linked to struggling with a map like that. Very, very unlikely. Uh, there's more of a biological component to it than that. But it's possible. Here, Not Your Business continues on by saying, in my case, drugs, Adderall and a lot of weed, and a lack of sleep, and proper nutrition also played a big role for sure. Also a bunch of stress and drama between my dad and I. But it was a misunderstanding that I had FE like my dad. It was like Eric in so many ways, which made me feel like a dumbass after I realized I had it wrong the whole time, especially since I would just go on and on to everyone about how obvious it was. Well, you probably still have it wrong because you clearly have wildly misread Rachel's affect behavior words as indicative of something that they're not. I don't doubt the legitimacy of your relevant experience when you say here, I feel very connected to Eric intuitively. Our lives seem to parallel each other's. If my dad, who's in the hospital right now with all kinds of health problems due to alcoholism, had chosen to quit drinking instead of smoking, he'd be Eric. Okay, well, regardless, it seems clear in this that you misread what I intended to convey in this video. I found the experience traumatic and concerning, uh, but it was a single mental health crisis event. The explanation I'm making in the video is, to the best of my ability to make the determination currently, it seems very unlikely that I'm at risk for that happening again, provided I don't mix Vyvanse and mushrooms. Given that I've had all of those factors before, it may have made me feel very crazy, but never made me actually crazy. And the difference between that feeling of crazy and actually crazy is stark, distinct, and mind-blowingly obvious to me having experienced it. What Oh yeah, I'm fine. Asayaki, are you the one who said you wanted 1 a.m.? I just sent you a calendar invite. So the thing is, I've experienced every single one of those things together before. All right, well, it must have just come in. Let me just check my email. Because the thing is, I just dealt with a PayPal thing. I have another one that just came in. Okay, well, I don't see it yet, but I'll go to PayPal and look for it there. So the point is, the whole point of that video is, no matter how much intuitively it may resonate to you as most likely that this is some sort of um, yeah, I haven't received your payment yet. Okay. Oh, when you said, did you get my mail regarding that? If you booked a typing session, as per the instructions in the how to book a typing session document, I should receive a notification from PayPal indicating that I received $100. And when I receive that notification, then that's how I make sure I keep track of everything. I respond to those PayPal emails rather than anything else. Otherwise, I get confused whether you know, whether somebody's paid me, whether I booked it. It's just I'm not good at keeping track of this thing. So the system I have works for me. As soon as I receive a PayPal thing, I will respond to you. Someone booked a typing session at 1 a.m. this tonight. I'll probably lie down for a few hours around 9 or 10. Okay, well, Asayaki, how long ago was it? What is this? I already did him. I already did Robert. Are you Nathan? Are you Nathan? Or Joanne? Or Johan? May 22nd, I must have done that. Oh, are you Sophie? Are you Sophie?
LOL. The great chain of being Rachel is an ENTJ, a chill one. Oh my god.
So I'm not sure if I ever quite finished the point. All of those things do contribute to, it doesn't matter if you sent the wrong amount, just tell me what name you sent it, your first name or something. I will find it if you sent it at some point. If you only sent $65 instead of $100, that's fine. I will still type you for $65 because it's just easier to just type somebody for whatever money they send me than to try to fix that.
I know you're joking, great chain of being.
Also, Rachel didn't suffer at all from this experience last night, as far as I can tell. She wasn't really paying attention to what was going on. And I suspect that had she been paying attention to what was going on, she would have just said, well, looks like Eric's really going off the rails on this mushroom trip, as I sometimes do. There's a difference between going off the rails and going completely insane. Brigado says Rachel's an ISFJ.
An ISFJ.
So, Brigado, do you have some notion about what SI is? Have you can compared your notion of what SI is to the data you have?
Are you joking, Brigado?
Probably not. Because for people who want to, there's a lot of people out there who want typology to not be defensible. They want it to be something they can talk endlessly about, argue about, etc. Well, if you don't know much about Rachel, then why would you make such an affirmative statement as though it were fact? It seems to me there's a breakdown somewhere in between having an opinion and knowing to what extent an opinion is justified. Like, at what point do you say, I have sufficient data to draw this conclusion? Okay, but you're not answering my question. What is either the date or the name on which you sent the money? You can tell me either the date or the name. I can find it. Was it April 24th? Was it April 19th? Was it April 9th? Those are all $65 payments. Was it and the only other one is June 20th. I know that wasn't it because I know who that guy was. So it's got to be either April 24th, April 19th, or April 9th. April 10th it says for you? Okay, so that's probably April 9th. Okay, so I think I know which one you are. Copy, email, compose. Sorry I didn't respond to this when you sent it initially. I use the approach idea because it usually prevents this from happening.
Yeah.
I get it. Either I or Rachel see, and that always triggers me to say, "Thank you for purchasing the typing session." Sorry you fell through the cracks. I'm not sure why that happened. But anyway, here's my email. Typing session. What day and time do you want? I'm PDT. Yes, I might. Pow, 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 and pow. There! There you go.
I'm glad it was solved. Hey!
Edmund L. Gettier. Is justified true belief knowledge? Well, I mean, it's important to remember that with all those kind of words, we're framing it wrong to treat it as those statuses as existing in non-action forms. So you can assert that something is knowledge. It can work as knowledge within your calculations. Whether it is knowledge, that's not a determinate. You can't determine that question. You can only say these words are functioning as knowledge in this mental processes, are functioning as belief. I attribute them a status of belief or a status of knowledge, and here are my justifications for attributing it that way. The problem with justified true belief is the question of whether something's true needs to be addressed with a meaningful definition. Unlike justified, we know what that means, right? it has justifications for its claim of truth, its claim of correctness. Um, but simply having justifications for a claim of correctness does not justify something. They have to be justified with the right kind of justifications, depending on the kind of statements and claims you're making and what you're trying to do with language. Anytime we treat language as an object of analysis, we simplify the process of understanding language for ourselves. We say the words are going to speak for themselves and the person's irrelevant. However, every time we treat language as an object of analysis, we misunderstand or fail to fully understand language correctly. Because language, in all of its forms, is a form of action taken by a person in order to do a certain kind of work that language can do. And almost all of the challenging questions that people find challenging aren't challenging when we remember that language is how we make, defend assertions, how we make responses to things, how we whatever. And that without the illocutionary frame of understanding why the person is taking the kind of language action they are, and whether or not the person taking the kind of language action they are is aware that they're taking the kind of language action they are, and if they are aware, if they have correctly parsed what it means in terms of how to understand things, right? So, like, a Getty problem is any example that demonstrates that an individual can satisfy the classical analysis of knowledge justified true belief. Okay, so the problem here is this. What's missing in that description of knowledge is that is the framing. So it's like, if I want to justify that this proof is valid, let's say P or Q, not Q, therefore P. If I want to demonstrate that it's valid, therefore that its validity is knowledge rather than belief, that it's going to function as a static object like knowledge rather than a object in dispute like belief. Well, I can easily do that provided I define the frame by which it's validated under. So because we can explicitly parse out the precise frame under which we validate, say, conditional logic proofs like P or Q, not Q, therefore P, right? We can always say that we know that this validates correctly under its own validation metric, or that it doesn't. So what's notable there is that you can't talk about justified true belief and knowledge without a frame of reference establishing what the validation metric is and why it's the appropriate validation metric for the thing being evaluated. And that, again, brings us back to the individual taking action. So, like, Getty is musing philosophically with metaphors in the absence of the correct frame of reference, grasping around for a workable alternative, a workaround kind of way to understand things. Unfortunately, it's wildly wrong because it doesn't establish the frame under which it could validate itself. If you're making claims like that, but not establishing the frame under which your thing ought to be objectively validated or invalidated by others, not just by yourself, then you're just playing metaphor wankathon and causing confusion rather than clarity. Look, if I say, in the upcoming small frame here, all lighters are cats. I have a cat in my hand. True or false? The answer is true, because it's a conditionally framed situation in which I'm saying we're defining this as that based on statement connectives. Is it therefore necessarily the case that I'm holding a cat? Yes, absolutely. It's definitely true. Remember, it's conditionally true, but it's knowledge because it's not conditional upon actualities. It's conditional upon grammatical construction. And that makes it just draws a highlight to the fact that we've got different kinds of things that we afford the status knowledge to. Some of them are rock solid appropriate to afford knowledge to, such as a conditional truth. If all dogs go skiing and I have a dog named Fido, then my dog named Fido goes skiing. It's in 100% of all universes always true because of its conditional construction. If that's the case, then that is the case. The fact that what comes as the antecedent, I mean, the consequent of the conditional at the end there, is in and of itself, isolated from the conditional statement, would be a counterfactual statement, is not relevant because it's not an isolated statement. It's part of a conditional statement. So those kind of things help us to see why that guy was just confused, right? He was just confused. He thought the knowledge, belief, justified truth existed in some way isolated from a person taking action with language, and therefore was doomed to get it horribly wrong. He chose to evaluate language as an object of analysis rather than as a form of action that people take. It's fine to evaluate as an object of analysis as long as we remember that when doing so, we're truncating a significant part of the data that's necessary to fully understand what language means and how it's used and why. So all these philosophical problems, like that people go, well, what is meow? What is meow is a question you're asking because you've mistaken the utility of the linking verb, the be verb is, as conveying information about the world. It doesn't. I am a teacher. It does not convey any information about the world because that's not an attribute I have. Even if it was an attribute I have, I'd have to say, I have a job called teacher. I am a teacher. I am a man. I am fun. I am saucy. I am all these various things you can say. If we remember that what we're doing, I'm trying to convey to you an NI metaphor nutshell thing that will shape how you perceive me in ways that I want you to perceive me if I'm right in my predictions, right? So when we remember that that's what is being done, then the question of whether it's true that I am a pair becomes much more. No, there is no. It's not the inescapability of gay problems that Linda Zabriskie is talking about is the unsolvability of the questions underlying that notion without the correct frame of reference. So she's in the philosophical equivalent of what I was in last night, the mental health thing, and it's impossible for her to see there to be any way out because she's trapped inside of it. She's trapped inside of not having the right frame of reference. She can't conceptualize having the right frame of reference because it's not occurred to her. And so, as far as she can see, it's inescapable, this Gaudier framing. Really, she's informing us about her attentional strengths and deficits, etc., and why and how she's using language. She's trying to make a strong advocacy. She wants to position herself as an expert on this thing. Blah, blah, blah. I haven't even read any of it, right?
That's funny, I'll roll in a hand.
That's a good one, Lion Hand. If everyone stopped using conditionals, I would be so much happier. Wait. The point is, the reason human consciousness is such a mystery is because we keep trying to want to understand it as either a static process, in other words, it's dynamic in that it's a process, but it's static in that the process is evolving, changing, adapting, right? They want to understand it as either a static process, like, well, it all boils down to brain chemistry or electrical impulses or whatever. Or they want to understand it as something even more static than a process. They want to understand it as, say, an attribute you have, like the Big Five does. Of course, human consciousness cannot be correctly understood underneath a frame that's inadequately robust to understand it. It's got to be at least as robust as human consciousness itself. If you're gonna, and that means the frame has to be focused on sort of an accurate accounting of what's happening when people use language. Like what's happening right now when I'm using language. I'm doing what Linda's doing. I'm positioning myself as the expert who's the end all, know all of everything, the gauge of all knowing. I'm positioning myself like that, and you can articulate various reasons why. Um, I would explain it as I have sort of an allergic reaction to philosophy now that I have the right frame of reference and understand why I could never resolve anything before and why I know none of these other philosophers are resolving anything. Now I read a sentence like that and just break into hives. Because of course I was like they were too. And I know being like they were that they're going to view this, if to the extent they were to view this or see this or listen to it at all, well, first of all, they won't listen to it because they are the ones pontificating, being the experts. And number two, if they were to listen to it, barring a few very bright and detached people, a substantial number of them would use some heuristic which would tell them I'm posturing. The ones who actually evaluate it accurately, half of them would have their judgment infected by haterade. So you've got to for me, I've got to both acknowledge that I'm the same debased kind of motivations as those people. I want attention, I want credit for being smart or whatever. And the challenge is, even though I'm not inherently smarter than other NTPs, INTJs, or people who do this kind of pontificating, I found the Rosetta Stone, so now everything makes sense. They haven't, and because they're smart people who've been looking at philosophy for a long time, they have firmly landed themselves in the camp that there is no metaframe, just as I had firmly landed myself in that camp. Convincing them that there is, well, that has to happen organically. They have to discover cognitive functions and realize, oh my God, this is the Rosetta Stone of all philosophy, you know?
Yes, for instance, Mom, I did try on the dress. It was actually my last fitting. I had 3 fittings. And the dress and the veil are here at the house now.
Okay, let me address this Karma's Pimp thing, Mr. Robbie. So I went to the studio and I found the part with the band people. I could not find Karma's Pimp anywhere in that long list of band people. So instead of unbanning him, because since I couldn't find him being banned, I couldn't unban him, I added him as an approved user by putting in the URL of his channel. So he should be able to come around. If he still can't come around, I don't know what happened, but well, dear Y, I'm not extremely well read of Terence McKenna, but I believe I understand the gist of his nonsense, and it's definitely nonsense what he's saying by and large. He's using a lot of woohoo metaphor magical talk and doing the opposite of what I do, which is I operationalize my definitions. I say, okay, here's how I'm using this term. Here's why I'm using it. I'm using it to draw distinctions between this and this. Here are the qualifications something has to meet in order to fall on this side of the distinction, this side of the distinction. Terence McKenna is actively running the other direction, trying not to operationalize definitions. He doesn't want you to be able to use his words to check his work. I'm the opposite of that. Well, you're probably recognizing the similarity. I think Terence McKenna may be an NE Dom, but he's TI polar. I'm an NE Dom, but I'm TI tool. So, it's like FI tool people are vastly more qualified than I am for certain kinds of things. And I'm wildly unqualified for certain kinds of things. Philosophy. ENFPs are wildly unqualified to do it. Instead, what they end up doing is this tragic pantomime of philosophy or in which, of course, what they necessary every time always do. Run away from actually defining anything in a way that can be used to do anything intellectually. So the challenge I have is I recognize my own ego's role in how I manifest as I do, right? And that no matter how nobly I want to position it, at the end of the day, I want respect and attention. Plus some love would be nice. And yet, almost impossibly, if you were to do some sort of statistical evaluation of it, or if you if you're not already on this side of the bridge, then my claim that I'm apparently exclusively right among all these world's geniuses who've been working on this shit forever. Well, it's not like I'm smarter than them. Right place, right time, right skill set. Because there's sub skill sets within intelligence. Mine's the most useful of them. I'm not knowledgeable about anything in particular. I'm knowledgeable about how to think and how to use language. That allows me to be knowledgeable about whatever I want because I can correctly deliberate out the answers now that I have the correct frame. However, not when I'm experiencing a psychotic break. Then you should not listen to me because I cannot do any of the things that I should be able to do to make the claim, you should listen to me. You should be able to give very precise, real, meaningful answers to every good question asked about anything you're making claims about. That's the thing, I definitely don't know everything. There's lots of things I don't know anything about. But even if I don't know anything about something, if you're making statements about it, I can see problems in your reasoning, even if I don't know what you're reasoning about. For the same reason that we can know for sure that it's true that if all dogs ski and I have a dog, then it skis, even though the first premise is counterfactual, the conclusion is counterfactual, and the second premise is counterfactual. The whole statement is true, right? The same thing with whatever I was talking about, which is a little triggery. I feel like I was talking about this stuff a lot last night. I don't really remember, but it feels like I was. Makes me go like, oh no, don't be crazy again. Obviously, I'm not crazy right now. The risk of relapse into psychosis is minuscule in the absence of me repeating that particular drug combination. I think it's fair to say, Rachel would certainly like emotional support if she was feeling down, and some people she does see are friends. Some of us are and close, but overall she wouldn't want to be rude. Well, the thing about that Jeremiah face is you're presuming an FI consciousness that neither Rachel nor I has. When Rachel's feeling down, the only time I can think of that qualifies as that is she's bothered by something somebody said. So she was bothered by Nacho Business's comments on that video because he was telling her she was something she wasn't, and because he or she was framing the event as traumatizing to her, even though she didn't experience any trauma from it at all. She wasn't paying any attention to what was happening. So, was she feeling down? She was feeling bothered by these comments. So she said, she talks to me about it. I'm bothered by these comments. And then I do not give her emotional support. I don't say, oh, I'm sorry, baby, you feel that way. I say, well, here's why they shouldn't bother you. And that explication was involved enough that in this instance, I knew uh, that I need to make a video. That's the thing. It doesn't matter if you upset her. You didn't really upset her, you confused her. Because it's not like we think you're doing that maliciously at all. So we don't hold you to blame for anything. Uh, because Rachel is so distant from her subjective functions, she takes other people's statements about who she is, she puts a lot more weight into those than she should, and or they bother her if they're wrong, but she can't necessarily explain why they're wrong. So it's absolutely always fine to say things you believe, you genuinely believe, make your assertions, regardless of whether it upsets us. It's not cool to purposefully like try to trigger emotional responses or frustration or whatever. That's trolling. But at no point did we think you were doing that. And I think both Rachel and I am speaking for Rachel here, but if she disagrees, she can certainly chime in and voice that. I think both Rachel and I would agree that we want you to tell us the truth about what you believe. In this instance, what you believe is very wrong. And I will tell you the truth about what you believe as well. We don't feel wronged at all by your comments. But instead of feeling wronged, what I feel is compulsion to respond. What Rachel feels is compulsion to ask me, what? This is confusing me. What is this guy talking about? So that's what we feel like. That's what we feel um, instead of attacked or I mean we can feel attacked, but we didn't feel attacked by you. We didn't perceive what you were doing as attacking. So being wrong is totally acceptable. Everybody is allowed to be wrong. If they're wrong around me, they will get corrected. But that does not mean I'm condemning their instance of wrongness. Everybody on earth, including me, rightness is always on the other side of multiple wrongnesses. You can't you can't just skip past the wrongnesses. It's part of the learning process. Heck, I'm wrong right now. No, that time you were right. Okay, therefore you were wrong. I'm raw, wrong, and ready to roar. That's it. That's a good saying. It's like I find the ESFPs hold up before they go on their protest march against big business. Something super big like that. We're protesting against big business. Like a big business? No, Wall Street. That's bad. I mean, it's a lot of different things in a very complicated array of interactions with a lot of other different things. I laugh wrong all the time. I'm laughably wrong all the time. Sorry. I thought you said I laugh wrong all the time. That doesn't sound like you all over Linehan. You laugh perfectly. I'm laughably wrong all the time in private, but I hate being caught publicly, so I rarely speak. Well, that's the difference between an introvert and an extrovert. I live my process of correctness in front of everybody, which, as the process of correctness is for everybody, it involves me basically chopping down a forest of wrongness right here so that I can make a field that's productive, getting rid of all the stumps. And then I go, okay, as this field's going, there's another chunk of trees over there that is wrong. Chop them all down, take out all the stumps. Eventually, you've got the landscape of ideas surveyed out pretty well, at least in big terms. You don't know necessarily what's going on in the third row of the third bean field, but you've got a good overview of what sort of land the removal of the wrongness stumps opened up, what can be grown there, how the wrongness stumps were hindering you previously, and how that's revelatory about whatever. So, in other words, if you proceed down the path of correctness, even though the path of correctness is one that travels through many towns of wrongness, um, it does so decreasingly over time. So I'm a lot less frequently wrong now than I used to be. Because the wrongness stumps would cause problems, like I'd trip over them or my plow would hit it or whatever. Those kind of problems which manifest as instances of wrongness, well, most of the stumps are removed. So a lot fewer instances of wrongness. Wrongness is the last word in Steph's comment. Well, that doesn't necessarily make it the most important word. Sometimes the first word is the most important. Like, come here. The first word's most important because if you leave the second word out, the dog or person will probably still come over to you. They don't need the second word to understand what you're conveying. But, being me, as demonstrated last night, is not always easy or fun. I've done a lot of SI cleaning today. I feel exposed, so I've increased my privacy in the garage. I put up these curtains that I made out of the awning we took down. As you see, that's funny. It looks so much less cover than it actually is. It really covers the whole window. But it doesn't cover the side, on the side of the window. It's for privacy, not for light blocking. At least when you leave the window open, and some of the smoke will still get out of here. But I need to get a little fan. This is going to be my smoking area, so I can blow the smoke out the side door. Of course, this traumatized need to SI cleaned up all the garage in here, put things back where they go, cleaned the kitchen, vacuumed everything, cleaned the stove. That's the kind of shit I did when Lacey died. Obviously, it's not as intense this time as that time, but it's another example of me retreating to my fourth slot function in the aftermath of a trauma. Because you're just intentionally wired to assume the problem was too little SI for me, or too little whatever your fourth slot function is. If Rachel experiences trauma like like when my dad shot himself, she's gonna experience it as too little, too much SE, like I should have done something, and or that's an abusive use of SE or something. I'm not exactly sure how that manifests, but it's easier for me. It's easy for me to recognize myself retreating to SI. It doesn't just involve cleaning and stuff. It involves trying to take breaks, trying to relax my back. The vacuuming made my back hurt a little because I bent over a lot. And the sweeping and stuff did too, I guess. But I'll eat something pretty soon. And go back into the living room. I think I'll probably make sandwiches. That'll help me to feel like I'm doing self-care, which is what one needs to feel like one's doing after a trauma. It's just that one's attentional stack determines what one perceives as self-care. SI is like explicitly and obviously self-care the way I'm doing it, and when it comes to like food and blah blah blah. But it's not really self-care. Actually, when I'm talking about cleaning, it just feels like self-care to me because that's my fourth slot function. Okay, Rachel, do you want a sandwich?
I am not hungry, but I should eat.
Yes, you should. Okay. We'll make us each a simple sandwich. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to SI like I want to be. Alright, so this is gonna be perfect. We've got all the fixings for a sandwich each. And 1, 2, 3, 4. We additionally have chips to put next to the sandwich on the plate. But perhaps most notably, we've got 2 of these delicious ice cold cloud toppers left. Now we also have these other non-alcoholic beers that come in cans, these athletics. We haven't even cracked into those 2 6-packs yet. Well, I guess you could say I prefer Cloud Taller. I think Cloud Taller may be my favorite non-alcoholic beer. I mean, obviously, I like a lot Bitburger Drive, but I haven't been able to get that in a long time. They don't have it up here in any of the stores. So, functionally, my favorite non-alcoholic beer is Cloud Taller. It's the favorite that I can get. I would love to find someplace around here that sells Guinness non-alcoholic, but thus far no luck. The Guinness Stout non-alcoholics are quite delicious. Okay. Next I've got pastrami. It's the meat for you. That's its motto. Pastrami, the meat for you. Alright, the pastrami's went on the sandwiches. Next, we're going to use a product known as horseradish mustard. It's got all the zest of mustard and all the zing of horseradish. Okay, we put that on the sandwiches. Because it's easy, because it's convenient, because it's right here, I'm going to make the sandwich a little more advanced than a minimum level sandwich by putting lettuce on it. Like so. I know you can't really see what's going on because there's boxes of plates and knives and stuff. I'll put you over here. This will help you see better. There are the sandwiches. Now, we're going to put this bread on top of that sandwich like that. And this bread on top of that sandwich like that. Pick up the spilled pieces of lettuce. Put them in El trash. Let the cat out. Put the lettuce back in the fridge. Pick up 2 additional pieces of lettuce that fell on the ground. Now, are you done, Eric? Not quite. Because no sandwich is complete without the crunchy addition of potato chips. Well, gently nestle these around the sandwich. We'll enrobe the sandwich with potato chips. Mission complete. Are you all done now, Eric? Not quite. First of all, in order to eat these sandwiches, both Rachel and I will need a paper towel. So we'll place one of those paper towels right there. But perhaps more significantly, in order to drink these house holders, both Rachel and I will need to have them opened. These aren't twist offs. You have to use one of these things. Okay. Then another thing I'm going to do is just spray the sink with this green stuff. We're having ant problems, and I want them to stay away. Okay. Uno dos goes to the other room.
Thank you.
And then Uno dos goes to the other room. Along with you, valued friends. You too shall come along. It's too hot outside, and it's appropriately cool from the air conditioning inside, but I think I actually want to put on a light jacket. So, well, I'll tell you what. The first thing I'll put on is my Shea Langoliers jersey. Okay, so I've got to tell you guys something that I did not know until today. I mentioned yesterday, I believe, that when we were at the baseball game, the camera guy, with like a TV camera or whatever, came and filmed us as we were buying the 50-50, and then as I held up my Shea Langoliers sign. I wasn't looking at the big board in the stadium. Rachel informed me today they were showing us on the big board in the stadium while he was pointing the camera at us. So that makes that trip a lot more successful. Well, not on TV. No, they were showing us on the big screen in the stadium.
Thing.
That's never happened to me before.
No, me neither. That was the first time for me too. It was fun.
It's exciting to know that because
at first we were like just sitting there smiling, and then I see that we're like that he like points at us, and I looked at the screen. I'm like, oh my gosh! And I was like, yeah, go A's,
Well, the point is now we definitely have to go back sometime after the wedding for a night game. We're not going to any more day games.
No.
That's officially not allowed ever again. But now that I know that actual players for the Oakland A's have at least some minimal awareness that there exists the Shea Langoliers fan club. These people come to the game, right? We have to go back so they know it's not just like a one-off thing. We're season-long supporters of Shea Langoliers, at least this season, and probably his whole career at this point, having invested so much.
And the A's, we're definitely A's fans.
It's a funny thing because you're just arbitrarily investing attentional energy into something for the sake of doing it, basically.
Me?
No,
or us?
me, with the sign, with Shea Langolier sign, that whole thing. In some sense, it's non-authentic because it didn't start with me actually being a fan of Shea Langoliers. It started with me liking his name. And the reason I took the Shea Langoliers fan club sign to the game is because I liked doing that as kind of a segue thing between an art project and an actual form of being a baseball fan. So the thing about it is, it works best when maximally legitimized by us showing up at least 3 or 4 more times this season with the same sign
Yeah.
and the same kind of shouting for Shea Langoliers. Because by the end of the season, they'll reminisce. One thing that was weird about this season was, remember those two people who were the Shea Langoliers fan club? Just imagining that happening delights me so much.
And it delights me that like it could possibly delight him.
Right. Because the thing is, lots of people at a baseball stadium have signs that say various things.
Mm-hmm.
None of them are interesting.
Except for that girl who had the sign that said, "I'm cute, put me on TV." Yeah. I thought that was clever.
That was effective, clever, but not interesting.
No, it has nothing to do with.
The Shea Langoliers fan club sign is interesting because it's not consistent with everybody else's signs. It is consistent with the kind of sign you would bring to a baseball game as a fan. It's completely in line with the kind of thing that people would do. Potentially, there'll be legitimate baseball fanhood. But Shea Langoliers is an ultra obscure player. If you were to ask baseball fans who aren't A's fans who Shea Langoliers is, they'd probably be like, maybe the name sounds familiar.
Yeah. My dad knew well, he plays fantasy baseball, so he knows who Shea Langoliers is.
But the point is, I'm proud of that because it's very hard to walk a line where you're doing something interesting, but not Bill Waltoning, making a spectacle of yourself at the expense of what you're supposed to be there for,
Oh my gosh.
It's a tough line to walk if you're trying to bring attention to yourself and what you're doing in an environment like that where everybody's got signs and none of them earns attention. It's a pretty great accomplishment, I think.
Yeah. The A's got another run last night, so it was a 10-4.
Did Kotze let Shea Langoliers pitch hit in the 9th inning?
That I don't think so.
If I look at the box score and he did,
I don't know, maybe. My dad didn't say.
It seems very unlikely, but let's say I look at the box score and Shea Langoliers did pinch hit in the 9th inning. I wonder, did Kotze decide to let him pinch hit because he's like, well, the Shea Langoliers fan club came here today? I'd have to wonder about that. Well, my hope is if we go back to the Oakland Coliseum 3 or 4 more times this season, that on one of these occasions we'll get there at batting practice, and I'm going to try to get Shea Langoliers to sign my Shea Langoliers fan club sign.
Yeah, let's definitely go for practice. That's fun. I always like that. I always liked that.
I think that Shea Langoliers, I got a decent shot at the Oakland Coliseum of getting Shea Langoliers himself to sign my Shea Langoliers fan
I
club
think
sign.
so too.
And that would just be so wonderful.
So,
So wonderful.
Oh
I
my
wouldn't even
gosh.
know what to do
that
with
would
it.
be like the first like celebrity I've ever met.
Yeah, well, I mean, if Shea Langoliers is gonna sign something that people are holding out, well, what thing is he gonna be most willing to sign of all the things people are holding out?
Poster.
The sign that says the Shea Langoliers
His
fan club.
yeah.
He's gonna be more likely to sign that than somebody holding out a piece of paper and a pen or a baseball card or whatever.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, just from past experiences, a lot of times while they're practicing, they like to like hang out with the fans.
Remember, you misarranged your E and A. That spelling of Shay is a girl's name.
Hey, Mac Daddy.
Hi, Mac Daddy.
It was Eric's first Yankee game, and that's really exciting. I'm glad that I was the person that he was with when he saw the Yankees.
No, Shea Langoliers is not a woman. You know what I like about Shea Langoliers actually that is independent of this fun art project that may have drawn me to him a little bit. He seems happy when he's playing.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like he's having fun and smiling.
Mhm.
He may only be hitting 200, but he's having a great time.
He might even be one of those people who's like just happy to be on the team, you know, on a professional team.
Yeah. It feels like when I'm watching him that he feels like he's living the dream.
Yeah.
Cat on a hot tin nacho business. Rachel's FITE. Yeah, amazing. In a Super Dream world, Shea Langoliers with the team next season. After going to 5 or 6 more A's games next season, we'd be able to interview him. Or say, look, I would love to interview you about your type on my YouTube channel. That would be a super dream come true. But I wouldn't even aim for such a high dream. I'm aiming for a realistic dream. I think I can get Shea Langoliers to sign my sign.
That'd be great. It's our sign, right?
Hmm?
It's our sign, right? Like
Oh yeah, did I say my sign?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I got it.
Well, because I made it.
Yes, you did make it.
So it feels like, hey, I'm bad at this sort of thing, but it came out good. Look at my sign.
Really
It's
did.
kind of like a kid art project thing for me. That's why I call it my sign.
That's fine.
It is the sign for our club, for sure. It is our club sign.
Yes. Thanks, Boba Fett. I appreciate that.
Why do ESTPs need to take treatment too?
Who is, like, I heard about Andrew Tate on Flow State's live stream, but I was like, who is that? I've seen him, but I don't know what he's from.
I think that's an accurate enough statement from IDR Labs.
I Adira says, while INFJs typically have lofty-minded and ingenious ideas about how things should be, they nevertheless tend to prefer working with individuals in one-on-one settings as opposed to rallying crowds or group. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's accurate. What is the Tate treatment? What does Andrew Tate do?
Yeah, is he an actor?
I think he's like a YouTube debater or something.
Oh.
I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, me neither. I don't know who this
anything
guy
about it.
is, what happened.
Oh. Well. That's not a good club to be a part of.
No.
Well, it is so simple that the Red Pill Club is not a good club to be associated with.
No. I think the Red Pill Club ruined the reputation of the Red Pill Club.
Brigado, those aren't good reasons to think she's an INFJ.
Good point, Rubenar. If you boof the red pill, it hits different.
The point is that whole pill thing is trying to de-individuate women, and to the extent that you're talking about a man's relationship with a woman, to de-individuate the man as well. They're saying, us men, we can't deal with women as people. Well, that's not true. Sorry. Pill types, pill people, varying colors of pill.
Oh my god.
Wow. That's horrible.
That is horrible.
I hope he goes to jail if he's guilty. Okay, I've eaten that food, and it was very satisfactory.
So good.
It was about time for a bowl pull or two. Can we not talk about that? It's depressing.
So, do you think that's going to go away, or that...
Yeah. I mean, look, think about how much worse it was yesterday.
It was way worse.
You might still have a bit of a line there.
Yeah.
But I bet you the sleeve of your wedding dress goes down further than the sleeve of this black shirt.
Sleeve.
There's no sleeve at all?
No. I'm going to look like I have a farmer's tan.
Rachel, you won't.
Okay.
Okay.
My dad said the same thing.
I know it looks distinct right now, but a week from now, because just based on how much you faded from yesterday, you're in good purse. Except for that one spot I pointed to where I think it might peel. Right there. That seems like your worst spot.
Yeah. Well, this is pretty bad too.
Well, that's, yeah, okay. But this one in the middle of it, you can almost see it's darker.
Yeah.
That's where I think it's gonna peel.
I'll use a lot of lotion. You know what helped me? Baking soda. So someone gave a tip. This girl who was like, I'm fair and Irish, and here's a tip. mix baking soda in water with water until it gets cloudy and like rub yourself down with it and it reduces the redness.
Really?
Yeah. Partially because it takes away the inflammation.
Mm. Well, I had an interesting experience with that trick the other day. In the absence of having any aloe vera plant around here for the first time in my life since we've moved up here, I don't have an aloe vera plant. And of course, I burned myself on the snow blower. You can still see the blister on it. But the thing is, it hurt like the dickens. And I was just like, oh God, I wish I had an aloe vera plant. And it kept hurting, hurting, hurting. Like, well, why do I have this light aloe vera that I could put on this? Because I know it's like you're not supposed to put Vaseline on the actual burn. It's okay for a sunburn, but so I put this concentrate on it. This goo. I just rubbed it all the finger. It immediately stopped hurting, and it worked just like as well as aloe vera weed concentrate. Granted, that's an expensive local burn treatment. Well, concentrate. I wouldn't rub the plant part of weed on it, but this goo, this concentrate, worked beautifully.
Yeah.
It soothed it, worked beautifully. Aloe vera makes fire not bad. It's a good sentence. I like it.
Yeah, we should definitely. I'm definitely team aloe plant.
I'm so much in favor of aloe plants that from now on, I'm going to say hello in the British fashion. Hello.
You're gonna talk to your plants up. They say that's good for it.
I'm just gonna say aloe every time I'm saying hello as a way of paying homage to the noble aloe plant.
That's so nice.
Mm-hmm. I'm chock full of homage. Does cannabis treat sunburn? I don't know. We don't have enough concentrate to cover that kind of an area. Yeah. I was just able to. This is super localized. I just got a blister on one spot on this finger, so I was able to cover this. If we had a bunch of concentrate, I'd put it on. Well, let's put a little bit on one part of it and see how if it doesn't.
Yeah, why not? You guys see?
I'm gonna remove this.
Oh, the bottle. I want to see too how it looks on the screen. I could put makeup on it; it'll be fine.
So this, just give me a second here. Get it out.
There it is. It does soothe it. It's very soothing.
We don't have a lot, but let's see if that one spot gets better faster than the other spots.
Yeah, I have a farmer's tan.
Well, it's better than having a farmer's job.
Yes, it is. I'm like, after waking up today and seeing how much I faded, like, and like I know that you're right. I feel better about like it happening. You know, I was just kicking myself because I felt like a dummy.
I did too. I was kicking myself too because Well, any sane person looking at Rachel would say, "Oh, she's gonna sunburn." Who's got SI conscious? But my SI fourth is so shitty that because she's never sunburned with me before,
Oh no, I haven't.
like she and I have never experienced her getting sunburned before. It just never even occurred to me to solve a problem that I should have definitely anticipated and obviated. Which is to say, prevented it before it happened.
I should have known. Whatever.
Well, we both have learned from that experience.
Yeah, we have.
We probably learned not exactly the correct lesson. The correct lesson would have been, if we ever go to a day game again, let's bring all this shit. We learned a simpler and better lesson. Don't go to a day game. Because it's not just the sun that's a problem. It's the day game ends right at the beginning of rush hour traffic out of Oakland. And I thought LA freeways and roads were bad. Bay Area roads are terrible.
Terrible. Thanks, fellas. And I like that title, Rubenar, Sunburn with Me 2023. It has a ring to it.
I want to make a movie
Mustard,
called.
Really?
I want to make a movie called Flag Putters: The Three Walled Lanes.
Oh my god, the three ball lanes. Oh. That's so cute.
And it's been like that the whole time we've lived up here. Every time I've gone to Oakland, we've had that section you have to get, unless it takes us back the weird way, right?
Right, unless
In
it
case
takes us back to the
we
weird.
don't counter. But every time we go back that way, it's been like that.
Yeah.
It has not changed in months. Like, what could they possibly be doing that they need to have 3 lanes walled into these separate channels for months? I can't figure out what they're thinking. And then it's like there's road work. The whole 99 is nothing but road work, and they don't seem to be progressing on anything.
No.
They just have their blinky signs and their 55 zone will be enforced, which it won't. But since we came up here, I really started to critique people that Rachel and I call the flag putters or the cone putters.
It's serious. We saw 4 cone putters doing a 1 to 2 man job.
Right. The cone putter's job was taking these branches, putting them into a wood chipper, which was then blowing sawdust onto the side of this hill. Most people you could need is one person to hand the branch to the other guy who puts it in the chipper. 2 is the most people you could possibly need to do that job. But you know, cone putters, they also need one guy to stand by the cones that he put and maybe have a sign that says slow. You need another guy to supervise the guy holding the slow sign. you might need a pilot car, as we do when we go down Triangle Road. They've got one lane closed off, but you can't like see around the corner or something. Of course, the cone putters with the slow stop sign on either end can successfully manage it so that when people are going this way, no one's going this way. Instead, they additionally have a pilot car that leads the people and then turns around and leads you the other way. Talk about unnecessary.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I actually think the Mariposa cone putters and flag putters are probably some of the best cone and flag putters in the state. Not, which is not to say they're impressing the shit out of me or anything, but when I look at the progress that's been made on the 99, which we've traveled multiple times now since we moved here, I would say the total amount of progress is zero.
Yeah.
I don't see any progress.
No, me neither. Even when we passed them, I couldn't tell what they were doing.
Almost never, when we pass road work, do we see anyone working.
No, anyone.
Almost always, there's no one there except their blinky signs.
Yep.
It's like they must have said, okay, let's, for some reason, take these 3 normal lanes and make them like slalom, like bobsled courses where they've got walls on each side and you can't leave that lane. Let's do that. Let's work hard to get that done. We got I got 10 miles of that done, thank God. Now, let's take a 6-month break. You know?
Yeah. They do.
Phew! We've ruined the highway now. Phew, that was hard. We need a long, long rest. A wasted Sasquatch? Are you talking about a Sasquatch who's drank too much squash liquor? What happens when you drink the liquid from a rotting squash? You become drunk on squash liquor. Voted 2014's most disgusting liquid. It's not popular with most humans, but squash liquor is the only kind of liquor that Sasquatches can get in the wild. It's either that or Old English, and obviously nobody wants to drink Old English. Whose barricades are there anyway? It's like they took what probably was a 4-lane highway and they made 3 lanes that like separate from each other. Like this one goes over here, and this one goes in the middle, and this one goes over here. And you can kind of like see the other lanes some of the time, and they kind of go around like this. What they're doing there, I don't know. I've never seen anybody doing anything there.
No, and it doesn't say no exits either.
Right. The thing is, I remember a previous time when they had a blinky sign that said something like left lane, no exits, 5 miles, or something like that. So they have had a sign before that informed you, but it was, I remember at the time it was like, you have 1 second to change your mind now.
Oh my god.
You know, so I remember one time successfully being informed and avoiding what we did yesterday. There was no such sign today.
No.
Or yesterday, but and I wasn't gonna remember that. My keeping track of that kind of stuff just isn't that good. I wasn't gonna remember. Now I probably will because of that event, but I wasn't gonna remember. Don't take the left lane when you hit this stupid wall thing.
And thank you, Michelle Way. I have been playing around with makeup because I'm looking for, my wedding makeup. So thank you.
I'm 95 minutes late. Rachel looks so pretty today. It's makeup try on day
Yeah.
in preparation for wedlock.
Yeah, I'm seeing what I like.
Because, once we get married, I'm going to expect Rachel to put on full makeup every morning before I see her. Big difference being my wife and being my fiance.
Well,
All
that's
this.
kind of. I mean, I kind of expect the same thing from you.
What?
I really hope that you put on your face.
Oh well, the problem. I
Before I see
would. I
you.
would. I would already be doing it, except I had that conflict the other night. I had gone to the store. I listened to the advertisement. I said I want the easiest, breeziest
Yeah,
makeup you can
yes.
get. I got the CoverGirl. 45 minutes later, I had smears of random color on my face and was writing a letter, "Dear CoverGirl, I found your makeup neither easy nor breezy." Now, I don't know if this was a problem with the applier of the makeup, namely me, or the makeup product itself, but had been promised something that was easy and breezy, and not found it such. I had no choice but to complain to the CoverGirl company.
Well, you know what they're gonna say?
What's that?
That you just don't know your season.
Oh, you have to match your makeup with your season too.
They have rules, yes.
Shay Langlier's wife is Shay Langlier's Langolier. The thing is, I need to make a video, a short, explaining why people should not hyphenate their last names.
Yes.
Because you're removing from all future generations that choice. No generation should make that choice. But it's not just to preserve the capacity to make that choice for future generations. Instead, it's to preserve the capacity to not make that choice, really. Because let's say Johnson Hernandez marries Goldstein Banana. Are they going to become Johnson Goldstein Smith and Banana? Hyphenated? And then what if they have kids? And their kid now is Johnson Goldstein Smith Banana, and they get with somebody named Williamson Sonoma Tigerson Bok Choy. Now they've got 8 names. Even the people can't remember their hyphenated last names. How are they going to remember that I'm Johnson Smith, Goldstein, Banana, Bok Choy, Hernandez,
See, I forgot.
Williamson? Who's going to remember their last name that has all those names in it? Anyway, it obviously isn't a sustainable process.
Meow.
And what it is trying to do is trying to split the baby in two. It's representative of a unsuccessful relationship with NI. Because obviously, I want to keep my own name. Okay, then keep it. I want my husband's name now. Okay, then give up your own name and take your husband's name. Hyphenating them does not mean you get both. It means you get neither. It's not your name, nor is it your husband's.
So like I've like heard of women who go the hyphenated route because they keep the children's like the last name of their children plus they like splitting the baby in half.
Well, look, if a wife chooses to hyphenate her last name, but that hyphenated name doesn't transfer to the children, then it's a non-malevolent tumor. It doesn't create any of the problems I've articulated, right? So a woman who chooses to be Strauss Lapalosa Strauss instead of Strauss, um, who's not planning to have any children, is still, in my opinion, ignoring the NI reality that you have to choose one of the other things that you is more important to you. Keep my name or change my name. And that hyphenating is not doing both, it's doing neither. Well, the thing is, if you're married, you can easily change your name. At the time when you make your marriage license, you can easily say, once this marriage goes through, change my name to Rachel Strauss, which we did on the marriage license. In other contexts, it's difficult to change your name and involves going to court and stuff like that. It's only in the context of marriage that the partner can change their middle or last name easily, not their first name. Rachel's not changing her middle name. What the reason they have that option is because the old school way of doing it was instead of hyphenating your name, if you wanted to keep your maiden name, you'd get rid of your middle name and replace it with your maiden name. So sometimes my mom would sign her name Jane Snyder Strauss. Sometimes she'd sign Jane Strauss. She rarely, that I can recall, used Jane Elizabeth Strauss, although she still, if asked the question, what's your middle name, would say Elizabeth.
Hmm.
So I think the reason they let you easily change your middle and last name is because the old school way of doing it was women who wanted to keep their maiden name would get rid of their middle name and replace it with their maiden name.
So I looked on numerology. I did a numerology comparison of what my name with Rachel Christine Strauss and Rachel Lapalosa Strauss, and I did a compatibility like with Eric's name to see what the percentage was, and it said that it was higher with Rachel Lapalosa Strauss, but I didn't even know that people did that. I was just like, oh, last name.
It's old school.
Oh.
It preceded this hyphenation thing. And was
I
a
don't
much
like the hyphenation.
a much better solution than the hyphenation.
Yeah.
Thing, right? Because then, okay, you can kind of split the difference without splitting the baby in half.
Yeah.
But you have to sacrifice your middle name. Anyway, the point is trying to resolve this name question with while refusing to sacrifice any name is a very anti-polar thing. It's saying, well, it's gotta be better with a corkscrew added to it. Can you imagine, like, Leonardo da Vinci showing the statue David to an ESTJ? The ESTJ going, well, like, could we maybe install a clock on it or something? Because right now, I don't really see what it's doing, how it's used for something, you know? Can we use it to crack open nuts? What?
That's so funny.
I'll tell you what. You want me to go fix a bottle opener to the back here? And we can just, as we walk past it? And she's like, no, you'll ruin my famous art. Ruin it? I mean, make it useful.
That's good demonstrative TE.
Making it a bottle opener on the back of Leonardo da Vinci's Michael.
Well, like you're demonstrating. I mean it like you're demonstrating how an ESTJ would.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Like, you're saying basically, that's a good country boy if I were doing a country boy accent.
Yeah.
A country boy accent sounds like this. I'm out in the country.
I'm out in the country.
I got sticks and horses and wood and dirt. That's how country people talk. Would you look at all this dirt? Would you look at that? Oh my. Look at all this dirt. To tie a board to the back. It could be used to crucify Protestants, and you wouldn't be breaking the statue. I mean, what I'm thinking is we could hang around Michael's neck one of those blinking signs that tells you how fast you're going. And maybe if we can get Leonardo to redesign Michael so he's looking more scoldy, we could prevent traffic accidents. Demonstrating is what happens when demons menstruate. Do demons go through menopause? Theologians have been asking this question for as long as human beings can remember. Half of the people saying no, demons are eternally fertile. The other half saying no, demons are constantly menstruating but never fertile. The other half of the people saying yes, demons do go through menopause, and in fact, we can prove it because where else did Menopause the musical come from?
Yeah, really.
It was clearly written by demons.
Mm-hmm.
Sniff your anus and your feet every day of the week for a long, happy life. You know, I can honestly tell you, I never sniff my anus. Nor do I ever sniff Rachel's anus.
Facts. So I want to know. This one TikToker said that it's rude to do your makeup in public. I feel like it's not anymore. Like, I definitely understand the.
I think it's rude to do other people's makeup in public.
That I think is rude.
Well, if somebody's just sitting there waiting for the bus, you shouldn't go up to them and start putting lipstick on them. That's rude. You can be passive aggressive to an ESTJ and they won't notice much because they bipolar. I mean, subtextual stuff, I think even if they notice it, they'll feel unsure about their conclusions regarding it. But my dad was a very smart guy.
Yeah.
He's an ESTJ and he's antipolar. And that produces lots of contradictions. He was a super smart guy. And sometimes he said things that were crazy dumb. Like, but the thing is, they weren't dumb. They were just a rejection of intuitive, communicative logics as a way of feeling confident about something. He didn't trust his intuition, and he didn't trust other people's intuition, and he didn't trust introverted thinking or being correct to be determinate in any form, even those that were designed for it to be determinate. He operated under the assumption that you can always lose to FI. It's some emotional appeal, no matter how little relevance it has to the particular matter, can lose you a case or something like that. But he was wrong about that, and it caused me back in the day to think like, how can this guy be so smart and be so dumb about this, you know? Well, of course, now I understand a lot better than I did when he was alive. It's not that I understand the cognitive function issue better, it's that I never had any clear sense of where he was going, what his end game was, or something. Like, uh, until after he died, when I realized, oh, this is where you're going. Like, you keep trying to make sure that you're pushing into your life, you've got everything set up properly, and that you don't stay too long. Um, After the fact, when I could see what he was doing clearly, why he was doing it, how it was playing out or whatever, after some distance away from the event, I'm much better able to understand who my dad was, why he behaved the way he did, how he thought and felt, and I'm more able to experientially conceptualize his frame of reference rather than just intellectually describe it. In other words, I can resonate with it in a way that feels like I understand it rather than just describing a confusing problem. My father's FI. I don't know what to say about that.
Neither do
He certainly loved my mother.
Yeah, big time.
And he took care of her to the best of his ability for as long as he could. Was undoubtedly very flummoxed by COVID preventing him from dealing with that. Something I didn't understand at the time because I didn't experience that form of loving my mom, this continual acts of service thing. You know, Rachel and I perform acts of service for one another, but I don't think either of us particularly have it as a primary love language.
You don't.
Um, when I make you food, I don't expect you to really even like say anything. So just take the food and eat it. Maybe if you consistently never said like thanks or whatever, I might be like, "Here comes that I go."
So you might say thank you?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Okay.
You're much more. Well, put it this way, you err well on the side of being expressive of appreciation beyond my feeling any need to have that appreciated because I don't think of acts of service as being a love language at all. I just think I'm making a sandwich right now. Good TE says if you're gonna want a sandwich, let me make it now.
Yeah.
It's just like that, you know.
Yeah.
I guess you could say I felt a little bit of acts of service love language rubbing Vaseline on your sunburn yesterday
Oh, that wasn't active.
because I genuinely felt like flustered that you were damaged in some way a little bit and were in suboptimal state of being, worrying and obviously somewhat fretful about whether your lines are going to be there. But in that instance, it felt like, oh, I have to do something to save her.
Oh.
She's red, but I don't have any good ideas on what to do. Here's some Vaseline.
It helped.
Did it? Good.
Yeah.
Would you like to come to the garage with me for a cigarette?
Yeah.
I'm basically scared to go outside right now and hang out
Yeah.
because I don't want to see the neighbors or anything.
Yeah. Well, if you think we're supervisors of them, they probably don't want to see us either.
Right. I mean, my expectation is I'll wait for one of them to be walking by, probably the lady with the dog. I'll walk up to the street at some point and say, hey, just wanted to talk to you for a second.
Sure.
And just say, I'm sorry about making a scene the other night when it happened. I regret it. It was a perfect storm of mental health destabilizing factors. Just kind of leave it as that. Say that it's not something that's happened to me before, but it links to a recent medication change, and I won't mix those medications again. They know I don't drink. Otherwise, they might think he must have been drunk. But they might think, oh, he started drinking or something. No. I mean, who knows? I don't know. I need to talk to him. My mom's an ISFP and my dad's an ENTP. They've been together for 20 years. It's an unusual pairing. Yeah. I mean, ISFPs and ENTPs don't understand each other well. And my experience of that interaction is half the time I feel like the only adult in the room, half the time I feel like the only child in the room. Oh I did. They were talking loudly. I think about in order to sort of make clear to me that the convers the their talking and my talking definitely happened, and almost certainly my interpretation of what that exchange was is correct. It's possible that they were talking about unrelated matter that sounded like a harsh matter. That's possible, but unlikely. Certainly, I didn't hallucinate the whole thing or whatever. At that point, I was more lucid than I'd. I was a little bit more lucid, so I remember that part pretty clearly. Unlike much of what happened prior to that.
I actually think that the answer is both, Rubenar. Um,
Both of those things made him very uncomfortable.
yes.
Which one made him more uncomfortable?
Unexpected changes, maybe.
Yeah,
But
I'd say unexpected changes. But when I tried to praise him and voice my actual respect for something I actually respected about him, it made him very uncomfortable and stop that, Eric. You're making me feel embarrassed or something like that, he said. You know? So he didn't want my FE. What he wanted from his family was FI. But none of his family members have it. He wanted me to want clearly. He wanted my mom to want what he was giving her. Like, she didn't really want these things he'd bring home from the swap meet for her, even if they were nice things. Like, hey, this is a really expensive serving dish, but I got it for this price. It's a very good brand, you know? Well, how many fucking serving dishes does my mom want? She doesn't ever use any serving dishes. And she said, David, we have enough cookbooks, or whatever it was. Serving dishes. But she also saw that my dad wanted her to want these things, so she'd also balance it and make it show up. Oh, this is very nice, David. You know, he wanted us to FI. And obviously, everybody FIs, like everybody authentically wants certain things and authentically doesn't want certain things. But what I didn't want was to have to know what I wanted and for that to be instrumental in informing our relationship where I know what I want so my dad can better empower me to get it. It just seems all completely ass backwards to me because I'm not TE Dom NI polar FI4. I'm TE2 FE3 and FI polar. It's time to go to the garage for a cigarette.
Yeah.
Rachel, would you like to join me?
I would.
This box is empty. You used to have groceries in
it?
or
Yeah.
in choice?
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to roll more at some point. But I don't want to right this second, if that's okay. My cigarettes, I believe I left in the garage.
Can I reach out and go to the bathroom?
Sure. So here we are in the garage. It actually feels rather blessedly warm. It's a little chilly inside. But the air conditioning, I think we got it at 68, which is a little cold. So, this little seating area I have here, I've got this little table, which is just a stepping stool. I made this ashtray out of a cross pin box. I pulled out all the bullshit inside of it. It's just a metal box. It's a good ashtray. It's the kind of ashtray you can really take home to meet your mother. So, still distressed a little bit by last night's events. But as you can tell, I'm more or less my normal, mostly jovial self here in this live stream. I've recovered some from my shock. Well, you are smarter than me. You brought your bear with you.
Could I have some wine?
I go. Should be okay. What do you think about a little ashtray here,
I
Rachel?
really like it.
It's this cross pen box, but I pulled out all the fuzzy crap in there.
Oh,
So it's
clever.
Just a metal box.
I like it.
It's also a closable ashtray, you know? You never see an ashtray like this. But it's actually a really good design for an ashtray.
Yeah, it is.
Let's say I want to finish this cigarette. Doesn't look like a gross ashtray full of butts.
Yeah.
It puts out my cigarette when I'm done with it by removing the air from it. I'm going to get the other chair and bring it in here. The white chair from up front, or you want to bring one from over there?
Whatever. A chair would be nice.
Alright, let me get you the white one.
Thank you.
You're welcome. My precious Wonder Pants.
Oh, thank you. My precious Wonder Pants too.
So, one thing that a lot of people don't know about Rachel is that her pants she had custom sewn exclusively out of Wonder Cloth. Wonder Cloth is the same substance that they make Wonder Points out of.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It has a lot of important attributes that you want in a cloth. It's waterproof. It's sandproof. It's ant attracting. That's one of the downsides. It's the kind of cloth that attracts ants to you. That's why we have so many ants in the house.
Oh. I'm glad we have an explanation for it.
Mm-hmm. The good news is it's rattlesnake repressing. So that's why we haven't seen any rattlesnakes.
Oh.
It's got a lot of features. Wonder Cloth. You can wrap it around something that you know perfectly well. And if you leave it wrapped there for 5 minutes, you'll be unsure of what it is.
Wow.
It'll demote your knowledge to belief due to a lack of true justifications.
Whoa. I feel honored to have these Wonder Pants.
Well, it's because you're the one who discovered the cave in which the giant caterpillar was spinning wonder silk. And then you brought it to me, the right person who knew how to weave wonder silk into cloth.
What a wonderful story.
Mm-hmm. You weave it like this.
Oh, wow. That's some stitch.
Yeah. Right, my nickname in school was Weaver Woven. What's Eric doing? He's weaving some baskets again. I used to weave a lot of baskets out of reeds. I was known as the best fish trapper in my elementary school.
Wow.
I wove a bra for myself out of bamboo leaves.
Out of bamboo leaves.
A
Wow.
lot more comfortable than my first coconut bra attempt. Then I wove a cotton piece out of spider silk, and from then on I wasn't butt naked.
You must have been a lot less afraid.
I was an early adopter of Naked and Afraid. You know, before the show was even out.
That's kind of cool.
You know, my parents said, "Okay, time to get dressed to go to school." I said, "Mom, Dad, I'm way more savage than that. I don't need any school supplies. I'll make my own paper and pencils out of wilderness materials." And I did. Made all my own textbooks out of grasses, using inks I derived from bugs. I burnt down the school 3 times, training friction fires. And I often camped overnight there at the school, on the field, in my boma that I constructed from eucalyptus branches.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I didn't even have a machete. I had to chop down everything with my karate chops.
Wow. That's pretty impressive.
My hand used to be a lot sharper than it is now. That process dulled my hand.
Oh.
It used to be I did often accidentally cut myself with my own karate chop. One time I severed almost all the way down to the bone.
Oh.
That's how sharp my sides of my hands used to be. Doesn't sound like a very stable shelter. Well, I mean, I stabilized it with an A-frame. I used a Y-beam, and I put a beam over that, stacked sticks across there. I interwove my palm fronds. I made some natural concrete, or adobe. I used clay from the riverbed, some, I guess it was like ibex dung, and some locally sourced straw. It was growing in a small plot of straw nearby. Anyway, I made an adobe fireplace inside my structure to keep it fire safe. It did burn down eventually one night, but I rebuilt it. It burned down again. The problem with that structure design, of course, is that all your palm fronds dry out, and then you're just a tinderbox. Eventually, I just ended up living in a big kiln. It was the only way I could prevent my structure from burning down. So anyway, that's the story of my naked and afraid childhood.
Wow. Naked and Afraid childhood.
That's to be the next version.
Oh, God.
We're taking these 7-year-olds and place them in the wilderness with man-eating jaguars, anacondas, rattlesnakes, deadly vipers. Let's see what happens.
Oh my God. In anime, they would all work together and make it happen.
Yeah, they should do an anime Naked and Afraid takeoff. Like a sexy anime, but not sexual. Like, you know, they're all embarrassed all the time and their cheeks are always red. And they make themselves barely covering little leaves, like the boys are wearing a fig leaf. Girls have an oak leaf over each breast and a V leaf down below.
Oh, V-leaf.
Yeah, it's a V-shaped leaf designed to cover a vagina.
Oh.
Just like a fig leaf is kind of shaped like a scrotum.
Is it?
Well, the bottom part of it is kind of.
Ah.
So it's there to cover your balls even if they're hanging down a bit, you know. Because, as I'm sure most of us know, one's testicles, the distance from one's body varies quite a great deal. Sometimes they're so close to your body, it's like they're practically inside your body. Other times, it's like they're trying to pick up something from the top of your shoe.
Hi, Squire Bucklingtons.
Well, astronauts, Robert Fairbanks, first of all, great question. Astronauts don't have access to Wondercloth because nobody at NASA knows how to weave it from the silk.
Oh.
It's a bit of a lost art. If they did have Wondercloth and they shit on the Wondercloth would convert that shit into very tiny flower smell particles. And that's how wonderful Wondercloth is. It's the cheesecloth of magic.
Oh, you always look so meanly at your sister. He's
He
so
does.
jealous.
Yeah. He's just a jealous guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think it's about time to wrap this up. I want to check in on the A's game, see how the A's are doing.
Yeah.
Hopefully catch a Shea Langoliers at bat.
Yeah.
And then maybe I want to take a shower. And then I think Rachel and I may attend a little bit to the business of Congress. And then I might just, lie down for a bit. I do have typing at 1 a.m. I suspect I'll probably be up most of then, but even if I go to bed, I'll get back up. It's not gonna be a problem.
Oh, it is 8:36. I'm gonna go to bed at like 9. I'm gonna go to bed and then I'll go back upstairs.
All right, cool. So check y'all later. Don't forget to remember
It's okay.
to not forget to recall that forgetting to remember that remembering is wrong. Okay? Remember that and you should be fine. Also, don't Bill Walton and don't Dave Matthews.